excuse me. These words reign true for both Pastor and Minister Morse. They both have made a significant impact on the people they have led in this ministry, namely me. Although I am here to bring remarks on behalf of Pastor Morse, I would be remiss if I were not to thank Minister Morse for her contributions in my life. Being a part of the praise and worship ministry here at Mount Tabor for many years, Minister Morse taught me the value of truly worshiping God in spirit and in truth. Her guidance gave me confidence in expressing myself freely in worship, and that is something I will always take with me and will not soon forget. So a heartfelt thank you. And now to the task at hand. My relationship with Pastor Alvin Morse began in 2006 when I returned home from film school and became a volunteer in the media ministry. A few months later, I became a full-time staff member of Mount Tabor's media department. It wasn't until I became the first assistant to Pastor Morse that I would be given an opportunity to sit directly under his leadership and glean numerous technical, spiritual, and managerial lessons from this great and awesome leader. If anyone knows Pastor Alvin Morse, you would know that he is a man who settles for nothing less than first rate.
All right.
My former colleagues in the media department can attest to the fact that Pastor Morse would not release any work from the department, much to our chagrin, if there was a minor punctuation or graphical error. He would always remind us that it didn't matter if anyone would not recognize it. We would know it was incorrect. As a result, we ended up taking on the same mindset and approach to any work that was assigned to us. The volunteers in the media ministry can also attest to the many times they would hear an irate and animated Pastor Morse on the headsets, responding to a jerky shot, terrible audio mixing, or an incorrect slide on the screen. As a result, the work produced by the media team became top-notch, leading to many external job opportunities at various television stations for a number of our volunteers. I remember fondly when Pastor Morse and I worked on the praise and worship team's live recording in 2007. Our professional rapport was put to the test as Pastor Morse pushed the limitations of my editing skills and patience with his incessant requests for this and for that. Nevertheless, we made it through unscathed and still on speaking terms, thank God. Looking back at that time and seeing the stellar DVD that was produced, I have to say I am grateful that you pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. I would not be the video editor that I am today had it not been for that. Before his tenure here at Mount Tabor, Pastor Morse spent over 20 years at ZNS, where he was not only known for his impeccable work ethic and production management expertise, but he was known among his colleagues as Rev. It is no wonder that his next assignment would be that of a pastor with responsibility for one of his passions, media. For those of you unfamiliar with the world of media, more specifically church media, it can become so technically driven that you have to constantly keep the spiritual aspect of why you do what you do in the forefront of your mind. Under Pastor Morse's watchful and effective management, all of the full-time staff and volunteers within the media ministry will testify that we all knew the spiritual importance and function of the media ministry here at Mount Tabor. We were always encouraged by Pastor Morse to be the best at whatever we put our hands to do, whether it was directing, audio, camera work, or editing. I remember that among our volunteers, it became a healthy competition, fostering and creating some of our best camera operators and directors. He taught us the balance of being technically proficient as well as being spiritually grounded. Aside from the lessons of time management, delegating, following up, and meeting deadlines, Pastor Moss taught me that being an effective manager of the staff and volunteers meant being a servant to them. It meant ensuring that they had the tools they needed to do the jobs assigned to them. It meant looking past negative attitudes and seeing what was really going on underneath. It meant motivating them when you yourself needed the motivation. It meant praying for them and their concerns until we got an answer. In essence, it meant meeting their needs, in most cases before our own. If it weren't for those lessons, Pastor Moss, I would not be the manager that I am today. Thank you. As I sat down to put pen to paper, I realized how difficult it is to put into a few minutes the positive influence that someone has made in your life. There is so much more I could say about you, Pastor Moss, and the way that you have affected my life and the lives of so many others in the media department who would have their own stories to tell were they given the opportunity to do so. I could say that we will miss the way in which you knew how to balance having fun with getting the job done correctly. We will miss your hearty laughter and the way in which you could lighten up any mood with your sarcastic sense of humor. We will even miss your exclamations of dissatisfaction in our missing the mark as it related to media. On a more personal note, I will miss hearing you call me Muff. I'm gonna miss you, Pastor Moss. Pastor Alvin Fitzgerald Moss. I have to do it. In closing, it is said that before the reward, there must be labor. You plant before you harvest. Over these many years, you and Minister Moss have labored and labored so much. You have planted countless seeds, not just in Mount Tabor, but all over the Bahamas. And by extension, the world. You have planted so many seeds. I have seen your work so hard. And so as you prepare to close this chapter and step into the new one, I truly believe that you will experience a great and plentiful harvest. You have to. You and Minister Moss both deserve it. I wish you Godspeed, and all of God's choicest blessings. And if we were at a wedding, I would say raise your glasses and give you a toast, but we're not. So I just ask everyone if you could just stand and give Pastor Moss and Minister Moss a round of applause.
Come on, let's give it up for Sister Matt.